Hello, this is Seymour Rocks, and I've got Kevin Hester on the line. And Kevin, I believe you've got some things to say. First of all, about this ridiculous 2 degrees uh, thing.
The whole concept of the 2 degrees target for emissions and for our temperature rise on the planet is a complete red herring, and it is a lie. There was a very interesting discussion on Mike Silva and Guy McPherson's radio show today, Nature Bats Last on PRN.FM, where they had a wonderful guest who was talking about how from the very first instance, A, 2 degrees was never achievable, and B, that it's just a complete lie that they keep repeating it, and they repeat 2 degrees as if 2 degrees was ever going to be acceptable, and if it was going to be manageable. But we would get absolute chaos from 2 degrees, and we're going to blow straight through it. And even the big organisations like Greenpeace and are still talking as if 2 degrees is a manageable number. And it's a real red herring. It's like talking about all the trouble that we're going to see is going to be in 2100.
Yeah, whereas I mean we're over halfway there, and we've already triggered the methane clathrate gun. So
Yeah, well, when we talk about the methane, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge Jennifer Hines's latest YouTube presentation about methane. It is an absolutely wonderful presentation, and it's a follow-on from the Arctic Methane Monster Part 1. This is the Part 2 version. And that segues into the main thing that I want to talk about, which is the fact that this planet, once before, has had a 5 degrees Celsius spike in temperature in a 13-year period. It was in the Paleocene Ecocene thermal maximum, commonly referred to as the PETM. And I believe, and Guy McPherson does as well, that we are probably in that 13-year window, and we could be well into it already. And all this talk about 2 degrees and 2100, it is a diversion from people away from the absolute chronic risk that we're taking at the moment.
yeah,
It's an absolute disgrace.
yeah. It's not even a risk, is it? I mean, if we're in that period.
Well, it's just so dishonest. The whole debate is dishonest. And I'm really disappointed with the big NGOs for not calling out, at least calling out the 2 degrees. They're
Yeah.
not even calling that out.
And they don't really even talk about the Arctic.
Oh, well, that's the next thing. We've already just hit the lowest Arctic sea ice cover a few days ago, and there's still another week or 10 days
Yeah.
before we could probably say for sure that we've hit that lowest point.
Now,
So,
yeah, I mean, the thing from my point of view, that this is what I see anyway. I mean, I don't know whether I'm correct, but I mean, they keep on saying, well, this is only the fourth lowest sea ice cover. Well, that's only one part of the picture, sea ice extent. When the fact is that the ice is breaking up. All the old ice has gone, and the sea ice concentration is way down. So unless you actually give the whole picture, that statistic is really meaningless.
yeah, and you've got to look at it in the context of the ocean temperatures are much higher than they have ever been before.
Yeah,
And that means that because the sea ice level is so low, our starting point on ocean temperatures is so high. That brings us so much closer to destabilization on a large scale of the methane
yes.
clathrates.
But I think we need to really emphasize what you were saying before, even more, because what this research was saying, was it not, that temperature increased 5 degrees Celsius in a period of 13 years? Is that right?
Yes, it is. And a really important detail to realize with that is it's only very recently, this paper from Joe Rom from Climate Progress, it is dated 2013, and at the time that it was written, up until that point, scientists had thought that spike in temperature had happened over a period of 10,000 years.
Yeah, that is
And
absolutely amazing.
then when they ground the data, they analysed the data more, they found it wasn't 10,000,
13.
it was 13.
Yes.
This is a blink in the eye. In the geologic time scale, it's a blink of an eye.
And the other amazing thing is, I mean, this is absolutely explosive information, and yet I didn't know about it. It goes, I'm following this every day, and, these things go completely unnoticed, uncommented on, and, well, I mean, that's also part of the lie, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. The whole narrative is being controlled. And the new climate denier position is to say that, oh, yeah, things are bad. It was all happening. And man, there's going to be water on the streets in New York in 2100. The
Oh,
reality is that this whole subject of sea level rise is a red herring. It is true. It is going
yeah.
to happen. But it's academic if it happens and no one is around to see it. If
Well,
we've all gone extinct before the water comes down Wall Street, has it happened? It's a little bit like if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there, does it make a noise?
yeah. Well, it's a bit like, I mean, we're getting this down here in Wellington, that the local Lower Hutt City Council is doing planning, and what they're planning to do is to widen the river, and for the big 100-year flood, and for the sea level rise in the future. Well, I think before we get to that stage, we might have a catastrophic drought, and we might not have any water in Wellington, and that's before we all fry.
If we get the kind of spike that has happened before in the PETM, then what will happen is that all the flora, all the plant life on this planet will shrivel up and die
Yeah,
pretty much straight away. It'll happen overnight.
yeah,
It'll look as if it's been sprayed with Roundup.
yeah, yeah.
And we need food. And in conjunction with all that, all these things are going to happen. But what's going to happen before is the climate wars, the habitat wars
Yeah.
that are going to take place between nations. The moment the big bully nations on the planet see this evolving, they are going to be fighting over the habitat. So a lot of these things are going to be triggers for other events.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And we're
already,
not talking about the whole picture.
yeah,
Everything is looked at in isolation, but it's like a jigsaw puzzle. There's all these different parts to the puzzle,
and
and
then the,
we've thrown
the
it up in the
inconvenient
air.
parts are left out.
Say again, sorry?
The inconvenient parts are left out. Like, I mean, I saw a couple of months ago or a month ago, that 80% of Mongolia's crops have been destroyed, 25% of Russia and China's crops. You know, I mean, that's now.
How many times have you heard on the mainstream media that 8.5 million acres of land of forest is burnt in the United States today?
Yeah,
If
never.
you weren't looking on social media, you would
Yeah,
never know that had happened.
that's right. Well, maybe in the American media, but yeah, that's absolutely mind-boggling. And it's getting worse and worse. I'm watching Radio New Zealand. I mean, the coverage is just getting worse. They've had a new change of personnel with a new person in charge of news.
What I would like people to do, our listeners who are listening to this interview now, what I'd like them to do is carefully filter all of the information and the way it is being delivered to them, because the new climate change the denier position is to couch all of the data and all the information in this very long time frame component
Yes.
where all this is going to happen in the future and we can all go ooh and ah. But the reality is, you look at the refugee crisis that's happening in Europe at the moment. Now that's a huge issue and everyone's becoming aware of it, but that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
It's only now that they've got to Europe that people are talking about
Yeah.
it. All of those tragic, catastrophic sites that we're seeing happening on mainland Europe now have been happening in the Middle East for years.
Yeah.
It's only when babies start washing up on the beaches in Italy that people start getting upset about it. There's an inherent racism in that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the important thing to remember that the single best way to deal with this refugee crisis is to stop bloody bombing their
Yes.
countries.
Well, I mean, they can't look at the cause because otherwise they couldn't continue with the war, so they don't.
I've seen a couple of different interviews where people have been reinforcing the fact that the refugee crisis that we're witnessing is about climate change.
Yeah.
And there is a climate change component in it, but the vast major reason why there is why there is this refugee crisis is the fact that the Anglo-Saxons and NATO have destroyed all of these Middle Eastern
Yeah.
countries and created absolute chaos. I don't believe that those people are leaving as a result of climate change as much as it is of the social chaos
No,
that's
no,
been
no, of course.
orchestrated.
Actually, just something of interest. I haven't put it up yet, but I've just found these statistics. It was put up by Mark Sleboda in Moscow. I think it's a British company, have just done this survey of Syrians, and the majority of them say that they're quite happy with Bashar al-Assad. So, just as by the by,
Bashar al-Assad has been demonized.
yes,
And I've had a lot of contact with Syria and a lot of Syrian people over the last 4 brutal years.
yes,
And the vast majority of people in Syria support the government of Bashar al-Assad.
yes,
In the elections last year, he won 88% of the vote.
yeah,
There were Canadian election monitors that were in the country, independent monitors that were in the country, and they said, considering that there was a war on, it was an incredibly fair and just electoral process. Jimmy Carter, the former president of the United States, he came out and said
yeah,
that the election was valid. I think what people have to realize is that in all these other countries, in places like Libya and Iraq, when they were attacked first by NATO and the coalition of the unwilling, that those armies fell over pretty much overnight. But that has not happened. The Syrian Arab army has remained
yeah,
united, it has remained dedicated, and it has fought and fought and fought against all the odds, and it has protected their people. Some people will say, oh, but what about the barrel bombs? The barrel bombs were a hoax. What
yeah,
about the chemical weapons that Bashar al-Assad was supposed to have used? Completely and utterly discredited.
yeah,
Bashar al-Assad is loved by his people.
yeah. Anyway, we better leave it there. So we've got 5 degrees within 13 years. I think that's the main message that we've got out of this, isn't it?
That's the big takeout. Guy McPherson and Dar Jamal did a wonderful presentation for Truth Out the other day, and Dar used the expression brace for impact.
Yeah,
And all I can say to everyone is brace
brace
for
for
impact.
impact.
Love
Yeah,
the ones you love and treat every day like it might be your last, because no one's promising us months or years anymore.
yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Kevin Hester.
Absolute pleasure. Thank
Yeah.
you.